Hello and welcome to this edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com, presented by FootJoy, the #1 shoe in golf. I'm Jessica Marksbury, joined today in our Lower Manhattan studio by Golf.com's Alan Bastable and golf contributor Josh Sens via Skype. Jason Dufner won his 4th PGA Tour event in the California desert over the weekend, but it's Phil Mickelson that's stealing headlines. The 45-year-old had his best finish in over 6 months with a rebuilt swing. And Josh, does this give you hope that maybe Phil still has it in him, a little bit of fire, to win the U.S. Open later this year?
I don't know about the Open, but definitely hope for a good 16. My spies down at Greyhawk in Scottsdale, where Getson camps out, Mickelson's new instructor, Getson spends a lot of his time, have been reporting back to me that Mickelson and Getson are both really happy with the progress he's been making. That's no secret. Mickelson has said that in the press, but Getson, too, says they're really close. As important as any of the physical changes that he's making is the mental side. You know, as we all know, the mental game is so important. And when you start feeling that you're making progress, that can just accelerate things all the more. And with talent like Phil, who could build on confidence like that, you only know how far you could go this year. I think it's a really promising sign.
And Alan, we've always said Phil is such a mercurial player. We never really know which direction he's going to go. But we're not used to seeing him come straight out of the gates with 21 under par for 4 rounds of golf.
Right, but Phil being optimistic about his golf game is a little bit like Donald Trump being optimistic about one of his golf courses. I mean, there's endless optimism there. Always has been with Phil. Regardless of how much he's struggling, he could go out and shoot 80, and he believes that he's going to come out the next day and shoot 60. So there's no question, you know, he's 45 years old. Phil, you sort of think as a young guy. He's not so young anymore in golf terms. I know guys are winning a little bit at a little bit later stage these days, but to win a major at 45, no one's ever won a U.S. Open at 45. Jack at 46 obviously was an incredible story at the Masters. So if Phil can get it done and somehow pull it out this year at a major, that's going to be a monster story.
What do you think, Josh? Can it happen? We're all hoping for it. We all love Phil, right?
You know, it's a good point. And when we think about this past weekend, his tied for 3rd comes with an asterisk down there in the desert, because notably absent from that field were the guys we're talking about, Spieth and McIlroy, among others. But even last year, when Phil's game was sort of nowhere to be found, he put it together at Augusta, where he always seems to. He finished 2nd to Spieth there. So I think that's still his best chance for another major. It'd be great to see the Open, but I don't know about that yet.
It sounds like we're hearing from Phil also. He still hasn't played his very best golf, and this is a part of the schedule where he's had a lot of success in the past.
Yeah, no doubt. But like I said, Phil could win a major and say, I didn't play my very best golf. He always thinks he has more in the tank, and he might. I mean, he's an unbelievable talent. We've obviously seen that. I think there's some new motivation here. I think with Phil, it's always an issue of motivation. I think maybe when he won the British Open, he kind of let his foot off the gas a little bit. Now with these young guns coming up, I think they're firing up a little bit. I think it's going to be a good year for Phil.
Well, we'll get to see him back in action this week at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Alan and Josh, thank you so much for your time and insight. And thank you all for joining us on this edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com, presented by FootJoy, the #1 shoe in golf. We'll see you right back here next week.